Alright, where to start? Let's see. So, most of this stuff that I talk about on here is prompted because of the fact that I can't scroll through my Facebook page or my news feed without, I won't say getting upset, but just thinking, how are people this ridiculous? I'm not one to unfriend people because I don't agree with their opinions or we have differing opinions or anything like that. I don't usually jump to someone's a bad person, especially if I know them and I've been friends with them in the past. I usually give them the benefit of the doubt. But I know the one thing that I've seen, at least one person on my Facebook newsfeed being adamant about is this whole trans bathroom issue. I think most people on both sides agree that this isn't really something that we should necessarily be concerning ourselves with that much. To some extent I agree, but that all changed when a letter was sent from the Department of Justice and the Board of Education, and they basically said they were going to cut funding to schools that didn't allow boys to go into girls' rooms, girls to go into boys' rooms. That is such an egregious overreach by the federal government. There was no vote. Why didn't Congress vote on it? Why didn't anyone have any say at all? This letter came out of nowhere as far as I've seen from every report that anyone's put out there. Nobody knew this was coming. This was completely out of left field. And basically it's the Obama administration doing what they do all the time and saying, I know what's best for you. You don't have any say in this. This is what we're going to do. I don't have any kids. I have nieces and nephews and things like that, none of which are in private school or public school, luckily. It seems to me to be ridiculous. I don't really understand, again, why all of a sudden this is such a huge issue, first of all. I never even really had heard of this, and then now all of a sudden it's this huge deal that everyone needs to conform and follow these rules of anyone can go into any bathroom. So, I mean, where do we draw the line? If you're gonna do this, then you take out the urinals and you make all of the bathrooms unisex, and they're all just stalls. That's the only way I see doing this where it's reasonable. And even that's dangerous because, there's that story from Chicago, I think it was like last week. Guy goes into the women's room in I don't remember what store it was. And Chicago being as progressive as they are, they're really leaning into this whole anyone can go into any bathroom thing, so nobody says anything to this guy. He goes in, some lady hears her daughter screaming in the bathroom, she goes in, he's choking her in a stall. He's got her in a stall and he's choking her. Now, would that have happened had this not been the case? Maybe. Maybe nobody saw him go in there. Maybe he snuck in there. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know. But this is what you're asking for. This is what you're asking for when you expect people to just say, oh, some guy just went in the girls' room. That's fine. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to act like that's perfectly normal. It's not. It's not. It's just not. I mean, that's just a fact. That is not normal, and it shouldn't be okay. And it was funny because one of the things I saw them post was about, it was a little boy who they said was transgender, but when I actually read the article, he was, the technical term is escaping me. Basically, he was born with both parts, and his parents had to decide what they wanted to raise him as, and they decided girl, which I think is usually the case when that happens. Now, this was a little kid. This was like a 8-year-old or 10-year-old or something, had long hair. It looked like a girl. It looked like a girl. And the headline said, do you want to keep her out of the bathroom, the girls' room, or would you want her going into the men's room? That's what it said. So, if that person went into a girls' room, I wouldn't look twice. They don't look intimidating. They don't look out of place. They don't look like they're any type of a threat. But when a grown man in jeans and a t-shirt goes in with a cell phone out and walks into the women's room, there's something wrong with that. That's not okay. And this is what you're allowing. This is what you're saying should be okay. I would love for someone in the comments, anything, I would love to have a Skype conversation with you and put it on here. And you argue your point on why that should be okay, why anyone should be allowed to go into any bathroom. And I did see something that when this initially started, and it was being talked about by politicians and things like that, the initial reaction from most people on the opposite side of this, thinking everyone should be allowed to go in any bathroom they want, was neutral, just general neutral bathrooms. We'll just get rid of men's and ladies' rooms, and we'll just have unisex bathrooms. It's just all stalls. There's no urinals, and that's the end of it. And no, that wasn't good enough. That's not good enough. I mean, you're not willing to compromise, but you also expect people to put what they perceive as putting their child in danger, or, even I don't want my girlfriend going into a bathroom where there's some 40-year-old guy in there. I mean, I'm not comfortable with that. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I completely agree with a lot of people that it was a distraction and it was just put in there so people would ignore things that are really an issues going on. But when you have a administration that thinks they can send out a letter like the letter they sent out, there's something wrong. It goes a lot deeper than people thinking it's okay for anyone to go into any bathroom. Let's see. So I also have a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters on my Facebook page, which they're always lovely and entertaining. So it's really funny the change of tone that they've had, because initially it was their votes are being suppressed, and it should be left up to the people, and it should be left up to the voters, and the voters should decide, and blah, 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 blah. So now we're a little further along. He lost all the states that everyone thought he was going to lose. He won a couple states that were toss-ups, but he's losing. I mean, he's mathematically can't outright win it. So now they're pushing for him to win a contested convention. So isn't that the opposite of what you were asking for before? Now, I guess you could argue that, votes were suppressed early on and he didn't win states he should have won, but I don't think, from what I've seen, there's been any proof that it was that egregious. And my other argument would be the same thing was going on with Trump. I mean, basically the stuff that I heard was going on with Sanders, and I've seen people post about Sanders, that stuff happened to Trump too, and he still won a lot of those states. So are you really leaving it up to the people and their votes, or are you trying to push something through that you want? I think you should really think about that, because it doesn't seem like you're following your whole it should be left up to the people mentality. So I always laugh when I see those, we're going to go to contested convention and we're going to win that way. So what is it? Do you want the people to pick? Do you want the party to pick? What do you want? If the people were picking, he'd be winning regardless. It's exactly what happened on the other side, and he won because the people picked. The people decided that they wanted him over any of the establishment Republicans, and he kept winning. He didn't matter that there were votes, shady things going on with voters and things like that, with votes being counted and all that. Yeah, and that was funny too. I saw, the Sanders supporters are always calling Trump a bigot and this and that, which is always hilarious to me. I got into it with one of them because I said it had been posted that Trump was a Nazi and this and that, and then the whole thing happened in Chicago, and they posted something supporting the things that were going on in Chicago, and I just pointed out, well, if Trump's a Nazi, why are you supporting Nazi tactics? And That didn't go over well. I'll just say that. And there were very few facts being thrown around from the other side, especially when I called out the fact that calling someone a racist and a bigot and some of the other horrible things, you got to be able to back that up. Give me an example. Show me something he said. Show me something he did. And the response was always, I'm not looking that up. You can find that if you want. You can find that if you want. So, it's the standard Sanders supporter response when they call Trump a, whatever, homophobe, racist, whatever they're going to call him. Oh, why? Give me an example of when he said something. Well, you could find it if you wanted to. Haven't you seen the news? Oh, you mean the same news that is suppressing Bernie Sanders' campaign and that lies and, this and that? That same news? Yeah, okay. And then it's really funny when Bernie Sanders makes comments like, white people can't be poor. He assumes that a person that is brown in color that's interviewing him is a Muslim when he wasn't. But Trump's the bigot. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Again, Bernie Sanders supporters. I would love to have somebody on here and have a back and forth with them about this, because the conversations that I've had, I've had some comments thrown at me on Reddit. I've had, like I said, the Facebook conversation. I never get any facts. I get people telling me that, Trump's a racist, he's promoting violence, he's this, he's that, and then I ask for an example. It's crickets, or they stop commenting. they say you could find that if you wanted to. I'm not going to show you if you choose not to see it. I'm asking for a quote. You're calling someone something horrible. I'm asking for a quote. One quote. If he's that horrible, I would think there'd be plenty of quotes. I mean, one quote. That's all I want. One quote. I even had a guy on Reddit the other day. He posted something about Trump promoting violence, and I told him, I was like, this is getting old, but I'll ask again. Give me an example. Show me a quote. Something. So he sends a link to an article about that incident where the guy ran up on stage at Trump, and it was really funny because Trump turned around, like, looked like he was going to hit him, and the Secret Service grabbed him, pulled him off stage, and was like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be fighting people." And they escorted the guy out, and Trump got back to the microphone and said something along the lines of, "I'd like to punch that guy in the face," or something. And that was his example of Trump promoting violence. And I'm like, Trump doesn't have to tell me that if someone comes after me and tries to attack me, that I'm going to punch him in the face. That's just my reaction. Now, maybe your reaction and what you feel like your reaction should be is to stand off to the side with your hands down, with your head down and your hands down like this, and just let the attackers do what they're going to do. But honestly, someone like that, I don't want running the country, because that's how they're going to react when another country's leader, or anyone for that matter, even someone inside of the country who maybe not have our best interest at hand, if they're going to let you forcefully just walk all over them, I don't want you in charge. So, again, just a horrible example. It makes absolutely no sense. And then, so, there was a YouTube video about, I'll link it in the bottom, the fall of Venezuela and how they're, basically collapsing in on themselves again because of socialist ideals and things like that. So I decided I was going to post a link to the video on the Sanders for President Reddit and just see, maybe get some dialogue, maybe get some, this is why, this is different, this is why Bernie's platform's different, something. I got, don't post that stuff here, not worded as nicely. I got a bunch of people telling me this is totally different than democratic socialism. No examples, but they're 100% sure it's different. This is the same reaction from these people. They're so emotional and not logical at all. It's always the same thing. It's, well, he's different. Well, he's different. Okay, how's he different? He's different. He's just different. Okay. Again, open invitation. Somebody come on here and have a conversation with me. I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna post this video on Twitter with feel the Bern hashtag. I'll post it with Bernie Sanders tagged in it on Twitter. I'm reaching out to you people. Please, someone private message me something, put something in the comments on here. I would love to talk to you. I'd love to have a back and forth with a Bernie Sanders supporter, because I have yet to have that happen. And I have a couple friends who are kind of on the fence, but they're not like the diehard Bernie Sanders supporters, like a lot of these people who I've encountered. And, those people, when I bring up logical things to them, they just kind of are like, oh, yeah, you make a good point. And that's the end of it. So I want one of you diehard Bernie Sanders, because you should know. You should know better than anybody else how his socialism's different from all the socialism that's been awful every single time. And I don't want to hear about Sweden and things like that. Now, you can bring it up and you can make the argument, but I'm just going to say right now, I have a lot of counter arguments for that. One of the biggest being that those countries aren't even as big as some of the smaller states in the United States. So using their economy as an example is a joke. It's not realistic. It's literally, if one state in the country were to become socialist in the way that they've done it, then maybe it would work. Maybe. I don't really know. And even then, you see there's a lot of downfalls. I'm not going to get into it right now, but just know I have some stuff on hand if you bring that up. So, but yeah, it was just funny, the reaction from the video on Reddit, because, when people bring up the socialism in the Nordic countries, one of which I think Sweden said, I wish Bernie Sanders would stop saying we're socialist, we're not, we're an expanded welfare state. So that's not even socialism by their own admittance. But, he brings that up and everyone wants to talk about it. But you start bringing up these countries where socialism has been nothing but horrible, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to hear it. Like, again, Venezuela. I mean, you have Bernie Sanders saying that food lines are good because that means everyone in the country is eating. No, Bernie, actually that means everyone in the country is starving, and they're having to line up to get food, while politicians like yourself are sitting on all the money and have all the power, have all the money, have all the wealth, and have all the food. So I'm not buying that. That's a joke. And the fact that someone said that and they're running for president and they're getting any votes at all is really sad. It's really sad. And again, Bernie Sanders supporters, please, someone come here and talk to me. I would love to have a conversation with you. And that's not a debate. Not I'm not saying an argument or a debate. Just a conversation. Just a back and forth. You say something, maybe I counter with that. That's kind of a debate, I guess. But civilized, just a conversation. I don't want to, yelling at each other and getting in arguments doesn't do any good. And honestly, I wouldn't do that with someone I don't know anyway. But yeah, someone, open invitation. Private message me, whatever. We'll set it up. I'll get we'll do it over Skype and I'll put it on here. I think that's pretty much it.